Herbert's 100 harem. Girls, 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 Baridzi calls out over the gossiping bunch. Yes, it was exciting and interesting to see their husband acting like a cold mercenary and take on a Sonir in power armor on equal footing. But they needed to talk. There were important things going on here. She sighs to herself a little and charges her throat with axiom and leans back in preparation to let out a massive screech. A hand finds itself on her shoulder, and as the person is in her blind spot, she turns to face them. It's Hunt's mistress Yzma. The ancient and revered Xaden gestures for her to follow. She does and is led quickly out of the larger thrum of the family and into a quiet corner. Is something wrong? It's a difficult thing to be a gentle hand to an entire horde of Xaden and Yaoya. I apologize for not recognizing that you were the one keeping this all together earlier. You work very quietly and carefully, Yzma says, and Baridzi wrings her hands together a bit. Thank you, but Baridzi begins before shutting down. She runs a hand over her stomach and trails off, unable to find a proper thing to say and looking away. Child, what's wrong? Yzma asks kindly. Nothing. It's just something I have to deal with, Baridzi states, and Yzma shakes her head. Oh no, tell me, Yzma says, and Baridzi just looks away. Child, that won't solve the problem. Even ignoring wounds doesn't help them heal, but merely exposes them to infection. You may think that dwelling on the mistakes made is taking responsibility for them, but in truth, it's merely one way that you can avoid responsibility. I'm not avoiding responsibility. I'm taking it and accepting it, Baridzi protests, and Yzma grabs her by the chin and closely examines the underside of her head crest on both sides. You're exhausted. You're stressed and you're drowning in misaimed guilt, Yzma remarks, and the axiom on her being rolls around in fond exasperation. In other words, you're a young woman in the midst of her first pregnancy. What? Baridzi asks. What I'm saying is that the pregnancy is making you go over every tiny little thing you've ever done and whip at yourself for every little mistake you've ever made. You want to be the best mother you can be by instinct. And that's a good thing, but you're letting it hurt you, which is bad as you have a human child within you and haven't simply laid an egg, Yzma explains, and Baridzi gives her an odd look. No, I haven't had a human child yet I've had many children from many different races, and there are patterns. A mammal? It's very personal, very much an entire soulscape of emotions, and those that give live births have the most interesting times. We're not good enough, Baridzi says. Excuse me? Look at him, Baridzi replies as the hyper-slowed-down replay of Herbert's fight in the Deathstroke persona shows him all but dancing around the blades and armor of his opponent and keeping the upper hand with the kind of equipment that can let even the weakest and frailest woman face with the worst monsters of the galaxy. Yes, you've got a great catch, Yzma agrees. How can we possibly compare? Well, considering that he's older and from a world so deadly that even getting into the same sector would wipe out nearly every living being in the galaxy, I would say you shouldn't. Yzma remarks, this is a lesson that most learn later in life, but you need to understand that holding yourself to the standards of another is absurd. Your husband is not someone to compare yourself towards in the slightest. He's done more than I had at 5 times his age, and he's just getting started. Well, we all move at our own paces. There is greatness sleeping within everyone, and it all takes something different to bring it out, Yzma explains. What happened to bring it out of you? Baridzi asks. And Yzma's very presence turns dark for a moment before she gives the younger Xaden a sorrowful look. Nothing I would wish on any other woman, Yzma responds. The sensation of life just dying inside her. To feel the axiom flowing through her baby go still and stop as that tiny heartbeat did. But, Baridzi begins and then trails off. Oh, sweetheart, Yzma says, pulling her close for a hug. The smaller woman latches on and just sort of shivers. "You've been working so very hard to keep this all together. Tried to make this look so effortless they can't even tell it's you. I think that you need a vacation within the vacation." "But I'll handle things for the next few days. Relax with your husband," Isma tells her as she leans down to kiss the crest of the smaller Zadine. Barizi just hangs on for a while before breaking off the hug and holding up her communicator. Isma brings out her own and receives a file from the younger girl. "He should be finishing up his phone call with the mayor soon. Head on up and let him know what you've been doing. If he doesn't already know, he'll be pleasantly surprised," Isma tells her. "I'll take care of everything, and I'll even offer a few suggestions before this vacation is over. You'll at the very least be rested properly when this is all said and done." "Thank you," Barizi tells her, and the axiom dancing along her crest lets Isma know there would be tears of joy in her eyes had she the relevant biology. "Go to him," Isma insists, and the girl nods before walking off. Isma smiles to herself. Her granddaughter may not be in control of the family, but she has someone truly caring and sacrificing keeping things together, as well as a strong sense of community. She picks her way through the crowd and pulls out Emira. "Hey, little girl, the hidden head of the whole lot of you is tagging me in to take over for a few days while she takes a break. You are going to help me, and by the end of the few days you're going to be in the habit of helping her too." "What? Grandma, what's going on?" Emira asks, and Isma sighs slightly. She can remember being so carefree and oblivious once. Time to open up the little girl's field of vision a little. "I've got a lot to teach a lot of girls, but don't worry. Grandma is good at teaching." Herbert cracks his neck somewhat when the call was fully ended. A lot of paperwork is going to be drilled up, and no doubt he's going to be asked to be the eyes on the actual documents until other people get there. Sure, no one said anything about needing him to do things, but he's the agent in position, and there's no one else available. He stretches up from his cleaned weapons and suppresses a wince. His sparring partner in the power armor had gotten a good shot off on him, and there was some slight bruising he was working through. He can ignore pain in the middle of a fight or a mission. Adrenaline is a monster of a drug, but the healing process has him feeling itchy, stiff, and feeling like he was beaten with a particularly dirty stick even when he was scrubbed completely clean. The door opens and he turns to see the slightly blue-tinged Barizi walk in. It was actually an interesting thing to learn about Zedan phenotypes. Those who lived in the cave and mountainous terrain of their homeworld developed slight coloration around the edges of their kitten. Barizi is a coastal cave Zedan, a touch more bluish to blend in with the nights next to the water. "Hey, gorgeous, how are you?" It's his standard greeting when any of the girls visits. Neutral but complimentary, with the aim to get them to talk about whatever's on their minds. Normally, if one was walking in all nervous and with trepidation, it was stupid teenage crap. But to a teenager, it's not stupid, it's not crap, and if it's not dealt with, it's going to become a big problem. "I'm on break," she says, and his mind goes over things quickly. "Ah, so you're letting Isma take the reins for a bit?" he asks, and she looks somewhat surprised. "You knew?" "I knew early on that someone was streamlining things, and when I eliminated the adults such as Ambassador Layla or Sir Philip, I started poking around a little more. I'm sorry I haven't been helping out as much as I should have. There's just only so many hours in the day, and between my job and training, I barely..." Herbert begins to explain before Barizi walks up to put a finger to his lips. "I know," she says as the door closes behind them. "You've been working like a one-man army in order to keep to the oaths you swore and to those that were sworn to you. Don't think I don't know how humans marry. I do. I know you never wanted us, and..." This time he cuts her off with a kiss. As she leans closer, her breasts mash into him and she holds him close. The kiss breaks off a short while later, and she pulls him in for a cuddle. The Zedan are larger than humans on average, and Barizi is no exception. "What do you say we order in some food and just spend the night together?" Herbert offers, and Barizi smiles. That sounds wonderful. Although how you stay so small and agile while eating so much is beyond me. I'm sure it's in the biology somewhere, he says rather than give the explanation. What do you say about watching a cheesy movie or two? Yes, I'd like to see exactly what these people are so excited over. I know the Sonier can be quick to jump onto cultural icons and the like, but this is beyond silly. Well, there are a series of 4 of them. The first one hits a wonderful balance, the second is a little dark, and the last 2 are so goofy it becomes simply absurd. Yes, please. About 2 hours later, she's watching in rapt attention as the villain's corpse is gone over to find a tiny bag giving out an unending laughing sound. That's what the Sonier want? Minus the murder, manslaughter, and destruction of property, I think. Herbert confirms, and she lets out a little huff of amusement. I should hope so, although it's a little scary to think there are chemicals that can do things like that. Boridzi replies as she cuddles up to Herbert a little more. The bed has specially woven blankets that don't tear or catch easily on Zedin Chitin. They were standard in Ambassador Hleila's embassy, but needed to be brought out especially for the girls here. The juxtaposition of how cuddly the girl could be, and the fact that she's made of so many knives and blades was an extreme one. It's like a medieval armory could fall in love. She suddenly jolts a little and holds her stomach. Worried? He asks, and she nods. It won't be me delivering first, but it's still my first time. Even if I know what to do, She's cut off, but a quick kiss. We'll figure it out. We're not alone. Not only do we all have each to her, but we also have our families, our friends, the organizations that support and sustain us. Entire systems and armies are at our back. Sure, it'll be awkward at first, but we'll thrive. Yes, we will. We will. She answers as she cuddles him closer. He turns on the next movie and holds her close. Be careful. This one is darker than the others, just like I said. He explains before things show a wealthy family horrified at some kind of monster that they bring into the world. She holds him very tight during the opening. You might be amused to know that the actor that plays that baby grown up, he's a funny guy, Herbert remarks. How funny? When he heard that a girl took a cardboard cutout of him to the prom as a joke because she couldn't get a date, he then took a cardboard cutout of her to the set of one of his workplaces as a response. Sort of a cute gotcha back moment, he says, and Boridzi starts giggling at the thought. That's so goofy. It is. Life's a lot easier to deal with if you don't take it all that seriously. Although, to be fair, I really need to take that advice myself, Herbert remarks. Are you telling me this because the bad guy is so over the top that I need to remember that? Boridzi asks him, and he smirks. Maybe. You love teasing way too much. My teacher is a bad influence, he says instantly, throwing Sir Philip under the bus.